ChatGPT has taken over the internet by storm. If you don't know ChatGPT, it is a machine learning model for natural language processing developed by OpenAI. It uses deep learning techniques to generate human-like text, and it is trained on a massive dataset. ChatGPT can be used for a wide range of natural language tasks, such as language translation, text summarization, and text-to-speech conversation. One of the most important features of ChatGPT is the ability to generate human-like text. And companies across various industries can potentially make use of ChatGPT to improve their products and services. ChatGPT has no boundaries, meaning that it can be used in any sector. Talking about education, entertainment, IT, ChatGPT gets you covered. Before we get into that, make sure you have an account. If you don't have it, sign up, and it takes a few seconds to do it. And the cool part is that it is free of charge. And I have logged into ChatGPT, and this is the dashboard. Well, before using ChatGPT, first of all, unless you know your niche, meaning what are you using ChatGPT for? After knowing your niche, then it comes to how you are going to utilize ChatGPT. Before that, let's look at some of the limitations of using ChatGPT. It says that may occasionally generate incorrect information, and sometimes it may produce harmful instructions or bias. But above all the responses that we are going to get, about 99%, are true. But before that, before using ChatGPT, unless you are familiar with what you want to do, for example, if you're a developer and you want to use ChatGPT for coding, at least you should know basics of JavaScript or the language that you are going to use. In this video, we are going to use ChatGPT to develop complete Nodejs API called Task Manager application. First of all, how ChatGPT works is that you issue prompt. The prompt is a question you ask ChatGPT to do, and then it will give you feedback. One cool point is that your question must be specific, narrowed down, and it shouldn't be broad. Now, let me show you how to use ChatGPT effectively as a developer. First of all, my advice is you need to be familiar with the programming language that you want to use. Let's say JavaScript, and we are going to use Node.js and MongoDB for this project. At this point, we have some basics of the programming language. It is important because sometimes it will generate some incorrect information, and you need to verify the code that ChatGPT is going to generate. Next step is the project that we want to tackle. It can happen that we have no idea about the project. In this way, ChatGPT gets you covered. And also, if you know the steps, ChatGPT also gets you covered. One important thing you need to bear in mind is that your prompts or your questions must be specific. It shouldn't be broad. Let's say at this point, we have no idea about the project. That is a task manager application. Let me show you how ChatGPT can help us. We are going to issue a command, and that is outline how to create task manager application using Express.js and Mongoose. Now, here we go. And as you can see, it is giving us the steps. First step is that install the dependencies, and then create new Express application, and then connect your application to Mongoose, and then create a Mongoose model for your task, and then create the route, then the actual functions, and then you test your API, and secure your API, and finally deploy your application. And this is perfect outline for developing Task Manager application. At this point, I have the overview, how it works. So this is the broad question that we have asked ChatGPT to do. Let's say that you have no idea how to go by, that's the first step. And we can continue the conversation by saying that how to install dependencies. So I'll copy the first one and I will come here and I will say how to install the dependencies. And as you can see, it is solving the first command. First of all, install Node.js, MongoDB, and the others. Well, at this point, I know the steps, so I'll cancel these steps. So first of all, I'm gonna issue the prompt by saying that create Mongoose model for Task Manager. And as you can see, it has given me the model. So let's go ahead and install Mongoose. So I have opened the project inside Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to initialize the project as npm --yes. And let me install Mongoose. All right, it has finished. So let me create one folder called model. And for this, I'm going to have only one model and I will name it as task.js. Then I'll come back to ChatGPT and I'll copy the code for my model. As you can see, our life is easier with ChatGPT. Well, we can improve this code, and that is with the current version of Mongoose, we don't need to pass in the created at and then the updated at, because we can pass in additional configuration as timestamps to true. With this one, we're going to have this one automatically, so we don't need it. Next step is we need to ask ChatGPT to create the route for us. And here we can specify that create the route by using a specific design pattern. For example, MVC design pattern. And also don't use callbacks, but instead use async await. But for this, let's ignore MVC design pattern and just to create the route. So we can say that create, and it goes like this: create the CRUD operations endpoint for the Task Manager API by using async await. So let's go ahead and create the file for the server, and it's going to be server.js. And this is where you may need this route. So let me copy this and paste it here. So let me comment this one as create. So let's look at the code over here. You can see that it is smart and it knows that we may need the model, which is this. So we need to bring in the model, but we can improve this code a little bit. And that is when developing API, you need to specify the exact properties of the data that you want. But let's maintain this one as rec.body. And down here, await and save and send the response. So let's look at the next one. Is for getting all, and I'll paste it here. And you can see that everything is in place. Likewise, the single, I'll copy that. And I will say single and paste it. You can see everything is intact, guys. How awesome it is. Next one is the update. All right, so here as update. Then the last one is going to be the delete. And you can see that at this point, it has hangout. So we can ask ChatGPT to continue by saying continue. And you can see that it is continuing from where it left. So I'll copy this. And here is going to be delete. I'll paste that and let me wait for the remaining code. And this is the remaining code. And I will paste it here. So as you can see, everything is perfect. But let's ask ChatGPT also to create the server. So here as create the server. All right, everything is intact. But here, we are not using express routing, so we need to remove this. That's why you need to understand the code that you are writing. So I'll copy that, and up here, before this, let me paste that, and let me bring this one here after express, and let's remove this. And the server also down here, and remove this. But ChatGPT has forgotten that by default, Express does not pass incoming data unless we install third-party middleware like body parser, or to use a method on Express to pass the incoming data. So here we can ask that pass the incoming data. As you can see that we need to install body parser as I said. But for this, I don't want to use body parser, but I can say that don't use body parser, but use a method on the Express. So I can stop this one because I don't need it. And I can say that use the express.json. As you can see, you can also use the built-in Express to pass incoming JSON data, as I was saying. So for this one, I know how it works, so I can go ahead and implement that. As you can see, pass incoming data, and this is what I want. So I'll copy that only, and here I'll paste that. Here, I want to change this one to use the app because it uses express routing, and we are all set. Next step is, I would say, create a function to connect to MongoDB. And we're going to give us the code. You can see that ChatGPT is guiding us while we are developing. So make sure that you have your connection string, and I have mine. So I'm going to copy this code. And even for this, with the current version of Mongoose, you don't need these properties like use new parser and use create index. So here, I'm going to paste the code here. I'm writing everything on one file, and I'll call the function as connectDB, and I'm going to pass in the URL. So I'm going to paste my MongoDB connection string here and pass in here as the URL. So now let's run the application. So let's get back here, and I'm going to use Node. Let me use start. I don't want to use NodeMon. This is a simple application, and use Node and index, or let me use server.js. Therefore, I need to change this one to server.js. So let's open the terminal and clear it, and let me run the application as npm run start. And you can see that we have some warning, like I was saying that with this version of Mongoose, we don't need what is called create index. It's not supported over here. So I can go ahead and modify this one. And even for this, we don't need all these ones. So I can remove this one, and we'll be all set. And you can see that connected to MongoDB. So now our endpoint is perfect. Next step is to make the request to create task, and you can use Postman or an extension called Tender Client as that. And after installing, we're going to have something like this, and you can create new request and then pass the request here and the payload, and you'll be good to go. All right, thank you for watching this video.